For today's video, this is a 6 years later long-term review, my experience with this camera right here. For those of you new to this channel, I guess everyone are new. This is a new channel. I'm Steven from Penang, Malaysia, and I am mainly a scale model toy photographer. Yes, the stuff you see behind me on my shelves, those are the kind of stuff I photograph in a studio setting, and I review them in a different channel. I purchased this camera in order to start a new YouTube channel back then. In short, I bought it for video, not for photos. As a Nikon user, where Nikon DSLRs back in the mid and late 2010s, they were outright horrible for video. The autofocus were pretty much unusable. However, now 6 years plus later, my experience with this camera is kind of mixed. There are good things and bad things about it. Why did I purchase a DSLR in this wacky, weird silver and camel brown color? The short answer is why not. I have 3 other cameras that are black color, so the 4th one has to be some other color, right? I mean, if you ask me to go outdoors in the public and photograph strangers, street photography with a bright pink color camera, a pink Nikon J1, yeah, I would totally do it. It is just the color to me. One major advantage with weird colors on cameras like this is that people take you less seriously. That is a major advantage in street photography, for example. You don't look as intimidating when compared to holding a huge professional looking black color camera, right? Moving on to this camera itself, what did I like about the 200D? Yes, it is really light. Over 400 grams, I believe 450 grams, which is barely 50 grams more than the Nikon Z30 that is filming me right now, body only of course. But there is also a small disadvantage to it depending on what your expectations are for a camera. I mean, I am a Nikon D850 user for many years, so this feels like a plastic toy. I mean, listen to this. Yeah, it feels like hollow plastic, especially around the grip area over here. And the battery door is just as bad. Very plastic, very flimsy. But I suppose that this is an entry-level camera, so I could forgive it. Speaking of the user interface, to sum things up in just a few words, very beginner-friendly. It is like designed for first-time camera buyers, and in a way, it is too beginner-friendly to my liking. I am already an advanced amateur at this point, so whenever I choose a different mode, aperture or shutter priority, there will be tutorials popping up all over the place telling me what this setting is for, but at the same time, I do understand this is meant to help out first-time camera owners. The camera was so user-friendly to the extent where, even though I was coming from a Nikon camera, it took me minutes to figure out how to use the camera, and that is always a good thing. One more thing I did not really like about the user interface over here is that Canon cameras, they have this Q button where you have to press on it before you can change any settings, be it shutter speed or aperture or anything else. And a physical Q button is missing on this DSLR body. It has been relegated to the touchscreen on the bottom left corner over here, and I am not a fan of that. I mean, Canon has an amazing touchscreen on such an entry-level camera over here, but still, I prefer a physical button for such an important control because of tactile sensation. Perhaps first-time camera buyers, they probably wouldn't mind this because it is their first camera, but me being someone that has came from many other cameras in the past, including Canon DSLRs, I always prefer physical buttons whenever possible. The second thing I really liked, in fact, this is one of my favorite things of this camera, is that the flip out screen on this 200D is extremely high quality. Really bright, really accurate colors in a way. Maybe except when you are using it under bright sunlight, that is where you shift to the viewfinder. Now, I mentioned earlier that I bought this camera for video work, and this is where this camera really shines back in year 2018 also, up to 1080 60p video, and I was content with that. You see, the thing with YouTube is that there is no point uploading 4K videos because 80 to 90% of your viewers are not going to be able to watch your videos in 4K. Only the premium users, YouTube premium users are able to watch high bit rate, high quality, full HD video and 4K video. Nowadays, YouTube is limiting free users to low quality full HD. So there is really no point in uploading in 4K, you know. For videos, the ports are also really important. So you do have a HDMI and is this mini USB port on the right side of the camera. This is a major disadvantage, but at the same time, it is a small camera, so I can understand why. Like, you have cables plugged in on the right side, you can't grip the camera unless you have a camera cage with an accessory handle on it, right? On the left side over here, there is a 3.5 microphone jack, and no headphone jack over here to be expected at this price point. Some people make a big deal out of no headphone jacks on cameras. For me, I'm fine with that. I would just observe the audio levels on the back screen and I think I'll be content with that. I'm not really a fan of listening with headphones on when I'm filming myself. So this is mostly a personal preference. Moving on to the photography aspect. Once again, I love flip out screens for photography. I know some people do not like it. A lot of vocal people over in the Nikon camp, where, you know, when Nikon releases cameras with this flip out screen on the new Z6 III, people were mad, but I love it. Because I am a toy and skill model photographer, and sometimes I bring my figurines outdoors, photographing them on the ground, just an inch above ground level, and this is a godsend. Now, with image quality, the dynamic range is average or even below average. Like, I tried a few creative compositions and there was this one photograph over here which was unsalvageable. I was protecting the highlights. I did not want to blow out the highlights in the sky, but the shadows on the foreground around the walls, they were too much. Like, they were unrecoverable. When I pulled the shadows up, all I got was digital noise, grain everywhere. So if you are photographing something really high contrast like a sunset, for example, maybe do exposure bracketing. From an entry-level camera, I wouldn't criticize it too much for having this average level of dynamic range, but it is quite limited on this camera. This is a DSLR, so it is going to have an optical viewfinder, just that the viewfinder itself, including the autofocus system, is Stone Age. 9 autofocus points spread out really widely, and you have to focus and recompose, a technique which I am very familiar with, but you can't say the same for the younger generation today who are used to tapping their smartphone screens, right? Tiny, narrow, tunnel vision viewfinder with very few autofocus points. So I have been treating this camera as a mirrorless camera all the time, 100% of the time. Even though I am outside photographing people on the streets, I would be shooting with the LCD just like this. So this is mostly a DSLR in form factor, but most people will treat it as a mirrorless camera. And this is where one of the major shortfalls of this camera comes in on the hardware department, and that is battery life. If you are shooting with the viewfinder, once again, I think 2 batteries is enough to last you for a whole day, but if you are using live view 100% of the time, I think you'll need 4 batteries. So do factor that in mind if you are picking up this camera today. But why would you pick up this camera today? $500, that is the amount I paid for this camera back in 2018 for the entire kit, including the 1855 kit lens, which was fair, and I was unwilling to put a big amount of money into a second camera system after using Nikon, just to start making videos for YouTube, you know? So I went budget, something small and light, and I chose the 200D over the Canon M50, which has just been released several months before this. I purchased this one. So why did I pick Canon 200D over the M50? This is where my prediction turns out to be extremely accurate. I had foreseen that the M series is going to die off, right? Because in the third quarter of year 2018, Canon introduced the RF mount. Even though the RF mount was full frame only at the time, I knew that Canon would introduce crop sensors into RF mount, regardless of what the naysayers say. I mean, look at what they did with EF and EFS, right? And when that does happen, the EFM is dead, and my prediction was spot on. So I wasn't going to buy into a dead ecosystem. Even though M50 was the best seller back in 2018, 2019 and so on. And boy, that was a smart decision, because the EF mount lenses I purchased for this camera, I could adapt them on my Nikon Z. Yeah, so they are not being wasted. They can be adapted on Canon RF as well. But you can't use Canon EFM lenses on any other camera systems. It is literally a dead end. Yeah. That was mainly the reason why I bought 200D over the M50. So to conclude today's video, can I recommend it today in year 2024, year 2025 and beyond? The answer is no. Buy yourself an RF camera, right? Buy the Canon R50. It is so much better than this camera. It cost only a couple $100 more at most. And you can always adapt DSLR lenses on the Canon R50. But if you are on a really strict budget, you want to stick to DSLRs because there are a lot of cheap lenses in the used market. Yeah, a lot of them. Then the 200D shouldn't be what you should be purchasing. Go for something like a Canon 80D. Though that is a bit bigger and heavier, quite a lot. If you want something smaller, I would say the Canon 800D would be a good option. And for those of you, who are looking into Sony or Nikon, I'm not talking about them today. That would be out of topic. Ask me down in the comments below and I can give you guys some recommendations. And until then, if you found this video to be helpful or informative, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. Help this channel grow. And until then, I'll see you guys again really soon. Goodbye.